Hi, my name is David Al-Khazraji. I'm from the Social Foundry, and today we'll be discussing the basics of the Unity suite for Force.com/Salesforce.com. Unity for the platform allows companies to do two things. The first is it allows companies to link any of their Force.com or Salesforce related transactions directly to any Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server database that's located on-premise and in real time. This is done through the data entry process. And then once those linkages are created, the next thing that the product allows companies to do is to create what I call real-time queries from their transactions that exist in Force.com directly to their on-premise systems of record without having to engage in any sort of expensive data integration initiatives, data replication initiatives. All the data pulled is in real time, and it just uses the power of standard SQL, and it is simply done through an administrator tool right out of the box. So it's a real time saver and very cost effective for organizations looking to integrate quickly. But enough about talking about the product, let's take a look on how it's done. So an administrator does a lot of the heavy lifting in the product, but one thing that they can specify is whether or not an object is Unity enabled. If an object is Unity enabled, the user would click on the New Unified Record tab, and a drop-down list would be rendered that allows them to select of the objects that they want to do their data entry. Unity supports both custom objects and standard objects. So in this case, I'm going to click the Account Standard Object, and then we'll start the data entry process. A lot of the fields that you see in front of you are very, very familiar for most salespeople. So I'm just going to fill out the bare minimum to demonstrate the product. Okay, now that I've selected the account owner, I wanted to draw your attention to the bottom of the screen. There are two new sections that have been added to the data entry screen for Unity-enabled objects. The first is the Unified Object External Data Point section. It's kind of a mouthful, but all that basically means is we are, instead of getting the data entry components from the user, we're asking the user, for the account name in this example, to have to query their system of record. In this case, I'm going to initiate a call to Oracle eBusiness Suite, which is our main accounting application for this particular customer, and I'm going to select Bank of America. So the individual doesn't have to type it in, he can simply select it, and it makes a real-time database call to that system. And I'm going to select maybe the main location or site location of that particular customer. And as you noticed, I don't know if you noticed or not, but Unity allows you to do dependent pick lists, and they can either be searchable pick lists or they can be just random clicked pick lists as well. Okay, so now that I've selected my customer and my site location information from Oracle, I'm going to save the record. Once the record is saved, you'll notice a couple of things. The first is the account name is now populated with the account record name that we queried from our Oracle system, and this was done, of course, in real time and at the point of data entry. The second is the account number is now populated with the primary key directly from the database. And this is an important concept in the Unity suite, is once we have captured that primary key, we can then start to create ad hoc queries based on that information as well. It's also important to note you can unify existing records with the primary key from your ERP system. You can do it on updating an account. You can then specify whether or not you want to link it to an on-premise transaction or not. So it can be done on insert of the transaction or on update of the transaction. So now, as stated before, once I have that primary key, I can then click on what we call the warp feature of the product, which is essentially a real-time database lookup feature that allows you or administrators to essentially create live running SQL statements that are bound to that primary key, or actually any field on that a custom object can be bound, not just the Unity ones, for example. Okay, so in this particular example, I have two what I call warp queries. You can have as many as you want, but for this, I'm now going to be querying information from Oracle E-Business, office location information, for example. So right now it's making a real-time database call to the Oracle E-Business Suite and pulling all the office locations that we have on record from our financials application. One that's very popular with people is whether or not the customer has paid their invoices or not. And typically invoice history resides not in the CRM system but in some financials application. But because they're linked, you can expose this data to a salesman so he can make his decisions. And this can go with pretty much any data that's housed in an Oracle or SQL Server database. So now you can see the power of the system as you build these external queries to your on-premise systems. These are, again, done live, real time, don't require any special SOCL skills, don't require any special coding skills. You just need to know standard SQL and you can expose this data. That pretty much is the main components of the Unity basics. Other demos will discuss the setups of the data points, how you make these external queries, but for now that are the two main features of the product.